Let me guess how you feel about your binge eating. Not great, right? Yeah, it didn't require me to be a specialist in helping women to overcome binge eating to understand that you associate binge eating with a whole whack of unpleasant emotions. But what if we dug deeper into those feelings that you're having and the mental effects of binge eating so that you can understand yourself better and why you binge eat better? On this channel, you'll learn the science behind why you overeat and tangible take-home strategies that you can use to improve your relationship with food and your body. If this sounds like just what you need, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a video. I publish every Wednesday. I'm Meredith MacKenzie of Parallel Wellness. I'm a registered clinical counselor and intuitive eating coach. I've helped hundreds of women who struggle with poor body image and feeling out of control with food so that they can attune to their body's hunger and fullness cues, repair their relationship with food and their body, and to find freedom so that they're able to just move forward and fully participate in their lives. Emotions play a huge role in the experience of binge eating. And this is something that I talked quite a bit about in my last video on why you binge eat, which you can watch right here. For many people, binge eating can be a form of coping with difficult emotions. So you might have found that over time, the emotions that just feel so difficult and so hard to deal with are just something that you're able to numb or push away or avoid, find space from during the time that you binge eat. And one of the reasons is that binge eating can feel good. Yes, not in the long term, it doesn't feel good, and probably even 10 minutes in, it doesn't feel good. And part of the reason for this is binge eating causes the release of dopamine, which is a neurochemical that makes us feel good. It's the same neurochemical that's present when you fall in love, and so why wouldn't you want more of that? So if you're already struggling with difficult emotions, whatever those emotions are, when you binge eat and you get this release of dopamine, it can momentarily make you feel better, even if it's not a long-term solution. The challenge with this is it's not really an effective way of coping. Sure, it gives you that brief moment of reprieve and you're able to take a break from whatever it is you're feeling, but oftentimes the emotions come flooding back in with a whole bunch of extra ones because now you're feeling not great about binge eating, and you don't actually get to process those emotions. So emotions need to be attended to in order to be processed and for us to work through them. But when we binge eat, it's really just a form of avoidance. And if you've ever avoided anything, let's make this more simple, like the time you avoided to work on that project and then you waited till the night before to do it, it only intensifies the experience and the stress associated with those emotions. So not only are you not processing them, but they're probably getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the cycle can continue because you're using binge eating as a form of coping, but then the emotional aspect of it is that nothing's getting processed, and then you go back to binge eating again. And the cycle just keeps going and going. Another way that binge eating is associated with your mental health and how you're processing things mentally is that binge eating can be a form of dissociation. Now, what dissociation is it's really just your awareness or your presence to what's happening in your body and what's around you. So this can happen on various levels, whether it's that you kind of have this little bit of an outer body experience where you're witnessing yourself doing the binge eating, feeling as though you don't want to be doing that, but not being able to really stop yourself. Or some people fully dissociate and kind of come to or get more of an awareness or handle on things towards the end of the binge. Or, like I said before, it's just a way of dissociating or pushing away those emotions momentarily. You might also find that another form of dissociation for you is camping out on the couch, having the TV on and binging in front of the television, and again, just having that escape or that way of taking yourself out of a stressful feeling. And again, all of those things are forms of dissociation, which prevents us from really attuning to and figuring out and processing what's going on for us. Guilt is a huge emotion that is associated with binge eating. You might be telling yourself, I don't want to binge anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. And you go to great lengths. You're even watching this video. You go to great lengths to try to stop it. You try to be intentional with your behaviors and to make all these changes. And when you end up binging again, you feel so guilty. You feel like you've messed up. You should have done better. And it's really hard to not be hard on yourself. And I want to kind of present this idea of undue guilt. There are situations in our life where guilt is almost a productive emotion because it lets us know that we've messed up in a way where we might hurt a relationship or hurt ourselves in some way. And it lets us know that we need to do something to change that. But there's also this idea of undue guilt. And this is a situation where we place that guilt on ourselves and really it's not due. It's not something that we need to feel guilty for. And this is what I would like to present to you as an idea for coping with or dealing with your binge eating, is that guilt that you feel after you binge is not due. It's undue guilt where you start to feel really negatively and badly about yourself, which, as we talk further, will go down the line. And over time, you can feel really, really not good about yourself. And it's not your fault. And now again, I'm going to make a plug for my last video right here on why you binge eat, because I really think it's an important video to watch in order to understand how complicated stopping binge eating is, and that it's really not your fault. It's not something that you should be feeling guilty about. But know that it's also really normal to feel that feeling of guilt when you do binge. Now, this is a heavy topic today, and I totally recognize that, but I also believe that processing your emotions and attending to your emotions, working through those emotions, is such an important part of recovery from binge eating. So I want to check in with you. You check in with yourself as well. Comment in the comment section down below and just let me know in 1 or 2 words how you're feeling right now as you're watching this video. And so now we're really going to take a turn here and get a little more serious. And so I'm going to pull out my Brene Brown cutout right here, because Brene is where it's at when we talk about heavier, deeper emotions, because this is where binge eating can really take a turn from, challenges with personal coping into something quite a bit more serious, and that is shame. So in order to dig into shame, let's back up just a little bit. When we think about our North American society, it predominantly values the thin ideal and fitting a very specific, rigid body ideal. And it devalues and looks down on people who exist in larger bodies. Associated with that, not only does it say, we don't value this body, we don't think this is attractive, we don't think that this body is worthy, and then also places so many characteristic flaws on people who live in larger bodies. Whether that means that they must be lazy, or they don't try, or they don't care, or they're not healthy. We really tend to associate, and even if you don't intend to, you might find that you have this internalized stigma against people who live in larger bodies. And it's so difficult to break out of that and to even function for ourselves outside of that. It's this internalized weight stigma that we carry around with ourselves, that when we do overeat, when we do binge eat, it terrifies us because we worry that we're going to be associated with all of those negative assumptions about somebody who lives in a larger body. And I can attest to it. I've seen it in my comments. Here's some comments right here. People make these judgments about people who live in larger bodies and what that means to be you as a human being, and really devalue your worth because of it, when there's so much more to you as a human being than just your body size and shape. The other piece too is that our society kind of holds this expectation that if you are not thin, that you're at least trying to be thin, that you are actively working on exercising or losing weight and making steps in order to meet that thin ideal. And when we recognize that that's not something that we're engaging in, it's so difficult to feel proud of ourselves or to feel justified or even validated in those decisions. And so this is where that emotion of guilt can get really complicated, because maybe binge eating is something that disappointed you or frustrated you, but it shifts into, rather than feeling like I did something I didn't like, it becomes I am something I don't like. I am unworthy. I am not good enough. I am not trying hard enough. And we start to really own that feeling, and the shame just piles on. Then every time you binge, you get more and more and more and more shame. And I don't know about you, but even just me, demonstrating that, I felt that shame piling on from my experiences with binge eating in the past, and how heavy and overwhelming that feeling can be. Now, when you're carrying so much shame about your behaviors of binge eating, for some people, it can shift into a form of self-punishment, where binge eating becomes a way that you say, I've done something that I'm not okay with. I'm not an okay person for having done this, and so now I must punish myself for it. So rather than binge eating being a single event where it's maybe a reflection of something that you're really struggling with that day, rather than it being something that you then move forward from, you end up binging again and again as a way of really harming yourself and punishing yourself for making the mistake that you did in binge eating. So there's almost these two kind of stages of binge eating, or types of binge eating, that you might engage in. One is kind of that primary kind that I've talked about actually in my last video about why you binge eat. And that would be kind of more a reflection of restriction, or that you're really hungry and you're needing, maybe you're coping with some difficult emotions and you end up binging as a form of coping. But then there's that secondary form of binge eating where you're actually responding to the fact that you binge ate and punishing yourself. And so this is where you might just say, F it, and I'm gonna binge for a couple of days. And so I see so often when clients will say, I just can't stop. Like I end up having days on end when I end up binge eating. And so this is that more self-punishment form of binging that happens. Now, even further down the line of how binge eating can affect your mental health, you might already be struggling with some, concurrent mental health struggles. Anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. But binge eating is also associated with causing you to experience depression and anxiety. And you might recognize this, where not only are you already experiencing something, but the experience of binge eating kind of compounds your emotional experience. The other piece is that with that negative sense of self-worth, or that you've done something wrong and this is your fault, all of that self-blame and shame can lead you to feel depressed and lead you to making decisions for yourself and how you interact with your world and other people in your life in a way that just compounds the issue over and over again. And so this might look like, choosing not to make social plans with people to go out because you're just feeling so crummy, or not going out to dinner or any place that would have food that might trigger you to binge eat. And so your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and that just impacts you on an emotional level and a mental health level, because we need those connections, we need those outlets, we need those kind of pieces of variety in our life in order to have a fully balanced and well-rounded life. So today was quite a bit of a heavy topic, but as a clinical counselor, I do believe that talking about emotions and the interplay of emotions with your relationship with food and your body and how you feel about yourself is so important in the recovery process. So I hope that watching this was something that gave you a bit more insight about yourself and hopefully a little more self-compassion with what you're dealing with. Now, I have a freebie for you. It is a quiz, and if you're wanting to understand more about why you overeat and what might be contributing to that, this is a great place to start. So click the link in the description box down below where you can take the quiz for free. If you're feeling ready to just leave this whole binge eating thing behind you, you're feeling sick of it, you've tried everything you could on your own, and it's just not working, and you're ready for something new, you're ready for a new approach because you so badly want to be on the other side of this, where you're able to have a positive relationship with food and your body and fully living and not isolating and making your world small, click the link in the description box down below. I have opened calls for my One Body to Love program, which is an intimate, small group virtual program for women who struggle with emotional eating, binge eating, and overeating. And this is a program where we really work on the deep emotional aspects of overeating, as well as incorporating intuitive eating and health at every size to help you have a new relationship with food and your body. If that sounds like something that is a good fit for you, I would love to talk to you. And if doors are closed to the program by the time you see this video and you click, I would still love to speak with you and to put you on our waitlist for the next cohort. If you found this video helpful, let me know by giving it a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss a video, which I publish every Wednesday. And go ahead and share this video with a family member or friend or anybody you think would benefit from understanding more about the mental health impacts of binge eating and how your emotions really play a role in why you binge eat and what sustains it.